Welcome to the first Planning Commission meeting of 2024, which I now call to order. As we begin tonight's meeting, I would ask staff to make any announcements necessary regarding decorum.
Thank you, Chair or Vice Chair. For the benefit of the community, the town of Los Gatos asks that you follow the town's meeting guidelines while attending town meetings and treat everyone with respect and dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's begin with a roll call for tonight's meeting. As I say your name, please say here. Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Hanson.
Here.
Commissioner Burnett.
Here.
Commissioner Janoff.
Here.
And I welcome our newest commissioner, Commissioner Mayer.
Here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
All right, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Hanson has agreed to lead us in that this evening.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. So this evening we'll begin our agenda with verbal communications. The verbal communications portion of our meeting allows members of the public to address the commission on any issue that is not on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Staff will announce when your 3-minute time limit is up. Mr. Paulson, do we have any verbal communications on Zoom tonight?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Anyone who would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda and is in attendance via Zoom, please raise your hand. There are no hands raised, Chair. Vice Chair.
Thank you so much. I have no speaker cards, but are there any members of the audience who wish to speak on anything not on the agenda this evening? Okay,
Vice Chair.
Yes.
So we had someone raise their hand late. So let's see if they are here for the item or want to speak.
Yes, can you hear us on Zoom? Yes, hello on Zoom.
Marta, you can unmute yourself and then you'll be able to speak.
Hello?
Yes, hello. You are on Zoom. You wish to speak during verbal communications portion of tonight's agenda?
I am not sure if it's the right time because I was trying to join the meeting and I couldn't. Is it the right time? I don't know if it's part of the agenda or not that we address the neighbors' concerns.
Okay.
Is that something that we need to say now or later?
So that will be the next item on the agenda. So if you want to stay on Zoom and then when I call for Zoom comments at that time, you can raise your hand again. Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paulson. And I see no hands raised for in-house verbal communications. So then we'll move on to the consent calendar portion of our agenda. Tonight we have 2 items on the consent calendar, being the approval of the minutes of our meetings on November 15 and November 29, 2023. Before the Planning Commission acts on a consent calendar item, any member of the commission may request that this item be removed. Are there any such requests? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
I move that we approve the consent calendar, which consists of the minutes of our meetings on November 15th and November 29th, 2023.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Oh, or Thomas.
Second.
Thank you. With the showing of hands, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. I see 5 hands in favor, 1 hand I imagine abstaining. Let the record reflect. The motion passes with 5 to 1 abstention. Very good, thank you. We'll now move to the public hearings portion of the calendar, of which there is 1 matter tonight. Tonight is a request for approval of demolition of an existing single-family residence and construction of a new single-family residence with reduced setbacks on a property located R1D, located at 212 Thurston Street, APN 410-15039. The property owner applicant is Malaya Gallardo, and the project planner, Maria Chavarin. Hopefully, I got close with both of those. In the first instance, can I see show of hands of commissioners who have visited the property? Thank you all. And are there any disclosures on this item? Seeing none. Can I please have the staff report then, Ms. Shelburne?
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Maria Chavarin, project planner for the property located at 212 Thurston Street. The item before you this evening is an architecture and site application for demolition of an existing single-family residence and construction of a new single-family residence with reduced setbacks on a property zone R1D. The project consists of the construction of a two-story single-family residence, including the low-grade square footage and the removal of 2 existing fruit trees. As part of this application, the applicant is requesting an exception to Chapter 29 of the Town Code of Regulations for reduced front yard setbacks. And this will conclude staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Ms. Chavarin. Commissioners, any questions for staff on this matter? All right, seeing none. I have one card from the applicant. Malaya Giardo, and again, you can correct my pronunciation if that's incorrect, is the project applicant. You can come forward to the podium and speak. You have up to 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Through the vice chair, she has up to 5 minutes in combination with her architect as well, who is available on Zoom if she so chooses.
Very good. My apology, I correct you. You have 5 minutes total, and you can allot that as between you and your architect in any fashion you like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Malia Gallardo, and I'm the owner of 212 Thurston Street. I've lived in Los Gatos my whole life, and I'm excited to make Thurston my forever home in this beautiful town. I'm requesting approval to build a new home as the current structure is very out of date and an eyesore in the surrounding neighborhood. I also plan to repair the garage. I look forward to being a good and an accommodating neighbor, and I thank you commissioners for your time this evening. I will pass it off to my architect, Chris Spalding, for further comments.
Thank you. Mr. Spalding, can you hear us on Zoom?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead and proceed.
Okay, thank you. So this is a very interesting lot, very small lot, and you've all been out to see it, and it's adjacent to the commercial zone, and that the adjacent property on the commercial zone has a house that's actually partially on Malia's property by 6 inches, and is also onto the public right of way by another 9 inches, I believe. So at some point, something's going to happen to that property. So when we were designing this one, we anticipated that something large or unattractive might go there in the future, maybe 4 units or, well, who knows. So anyway, we designed this house for Malia's needs, and also to, as best as we could, to protect the neighbors' privacy, their light, and their views. As you could see from some of the neighbors, they were also very concerned about their privacy. So we did some revisions to the second floor windows. If you look in your packet there, it's page 74, or Maria could put it up on the screen. It's our slide 212 Thurston privacy window changes. That's it. So originally we had some large windows in the bathroom, and we have made those windows with 5-foot sills and changed them to obscured glass. And that leaves only one window, which is in the bedroom facing the rear yard. And we have a photo of what it looks like looking out that window. If Maria, if you could put up from second floor looking at rear neighbors with proposed hedge. That's not it. It's from second floor looking at rear neighbors with proposed hedge. There it is. So what we're proposing is, this is the view from that window. And we're proposing a hedge, which is also in your packet, I think page 75. And Maria could put it on the screen. It's 212 Thurston screening plan. It shows that the configuration of that hedge that the landscape architect proposes. So I think with that hedge, we could protect the neighbor's privacy from that one remaining window on the second story. There isn't really a privacy issue looking the other directions. Let's see. Also, I should say that the reason that we're asking for reduced setbacks is those setbacks reduces a little bit the shadows onto the rear neighbors. It allows for us to have space for a small porch on the front, which was requested by the town's consulting architect, and what we like to have a porch ourselves. And even with the reduced setbacks, the proposed house is still further back than the existing house, and it does allow for a little larger backyard for Malia. So that was the idea about asking for the reduced setback. So that's all I have to say, unless you have some questions of me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spalding. Please stay on the call for one moment, and I'll ask my fellow commissioners whether they have any questions for the applicant, either the owner or the architect on the line. Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you for your presentation. I wanted to ask about the consulting architect's comments. While you responded to a number of the architectural concerns, I didn't see a lot of discussion of when they brought up about being the largest house in the neighborhood from a couple of different metrics, and specifically the consulting architect talked about because you're so close to the front setback, having a wall of 2-story. So I was just curious if you could address that, because usually I didn't see that in there. Maybe I missed it, but maybe you could address that.
Sure. One of his suggestions to mitigate the not having such a tall wall at the front of the house was to expand the front porch, and so we took that suggestion and added that to the plans, so that there's no longer any full 2-story wall segments that are visible at the front. The front porch is a 1-story element that mitigates the height, I guess I could say.
Okay, maybe it's because we don't have drawings like the consulting architect does, so it sounds like you have made some effort to reduce the massing at the street. Could I also?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Can I also ask you about the garage? The applicant did mention, yes, we're going to fix the garage, but you had a number of comments from your neighbors about the garage, and it wasn't in the plans to tear down and rebuild the garage. What is planned for the garage, since that was a source of complaint from at least a couple of neighbors?
So it can't be torn down if we want to leave it in its existing condition. I mean, its existing location, and we do want to leave it in the existing location because it's almost at 0 lot line. So it on this tiny property gives more space for parking in front of the garage, and it also gives more yard space. So the intent is to repair it and fix it and make it as nice as the new house will be, but it will essentially be the same building, just with cosmetic repairs.
But the cosmetic repairs will at least address the concerns that the neighbors had about it looking dilapidated and things falling off and So
Correct.
those, yeah.
It is dilapidated, things are falling off, and that will all get repaired. That will be included in our construction plans. But this application was really for the house, not the garage. So that's why it's not included in the application.
Understood, but we just want to make sure that you've addressed all the neighbors' concerns as best as possible. Thank you.
That is our intent.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Burnett.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Spalding, for responding to our questions. So I'm after going through the documents here. Our town architect suggested there were 6 recommendations he made, and you really only agreed with 2, wanting to maintain more of a contemporary style home. After walking the neighborhood, which I did, there's really only one home that is contemporary. Most of the houses are 1 to 2 story traditional, and you refer mostly to the house on Monterey. I think it's 529 Monterey. So did you discuss with your client other options, since this is predominantly a traditional neighborhood and there's really only one other home that is real contemporary? There is one home on Olive that has a similar roof, but the FAR, it's very small. It's a small lot and a small home. And considering the size of this lot and the other FARs in the neighborhood that are less, but the lots are much larger, this adds to the dominance of the style of this home. So I was wondering if there were other options for your client, considering 4 other recommendations of our town architect were not acted upon. Thank you.
Sure. Maria, could you put up the slide of 529 Monterey, please? There it is. Yeah, so that's the house you're referring to, which is across the street and one property over. Similar style to what Malia would like. We discussed it, and I mean, this is really, she wants a more contemporary house, not such a traditional one. So that's what we're trying to achieve. There's already an example in the neighborhood, so the planning staff said that since there's already one, it's the kind of the ice has been broken, and we could follow suit. I'd also like to say that it's likely that something more contemporary will probably happen adjacent to us on the property zoned commercial. And this house is right at the edge of the neighborhood. It's not in the center of the neighborhood. It's and perhaps Maria could also put on the slide Thurston Street view of Story Poles. Okay. Go ahead, click through. One more. There we go. So this is looking down the street. That contemporary house on Monterey is to your right. Our proposed house, you can see with the orange netting on the left. I just don't see that this is going to be an overwhelming presence on the street. I mean, when this is completed, it's not going to be orange, so it's not going to stand out like the netting. I think it'll fit in very nicely. And, we're trying to do what the owner prefers, and she prefers the contemporary style. I'm done, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. But again, that's the only real contemporary home in the neighborhood that you're describing. I walked the whole neighborhood, and that's the only one. And we do have a residential design guideline, and our architect recommended 6 changes, and you decided to only go for 2. Those are just my comments. So that concerns me, and it is the tallest house that is going to be built. It's a very small lot, and the FAR is one of the 5th of highest of the FARs. The other FARs are on much larger lots. So, I mean, I was just making those comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other commissioner comments for the applicant? Yes, Commissioner Mayer.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question for clarification. So the reason that the setback went from 10 feet to 7'3" was because of the addition of the front porch. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, Mr. Spalding, please stand by. There'll be a chance to ask and answer some additional questions after we hear from the rest of the public. And now I open the discussion to comments from the public. I know we have at least one on Zoom, Mr. Paulson. Okay. Zoom callers, when you, if you want to speak, please raise your hand. You will be called upon, and then please state your name for the record, please.
The first speaker is Bill Hobbs.
Mr. Hobbs?
Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you. My name is Bill Hobbs. I'm a resident on Olive Street behind the property. And first off, I got to acknowledge that I didn't have time to look at any of the planning documents that were revised. I haven't seen them. So thank you for addressing some of the issues. But overall, my biggest concern is just the scale of the property. It's much larger than any of the other homes, and especially any of the homes behind it. It's going to impact our light, our visibility out of the back. I acknowledge the input of a hedge is great. The master bedroom windows, though, don't know how much that hedge blocks, but they weren't changed in size, and they do have a good view of our back entryway and back bedroom. So I think that kind of sums up my concern overall is that you have a consulting architect said the size and scale was out of character of the neighborhood and seems to have been somewhat ignored. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Before you go, any questions? Yes, Mr. Hobbs, we have one question for you from our commissioner.
Hi, Mr. Hobbs. Thank you for speaking during public comment tonight. My question for you is, would you not be comfortable with any 2-story home, or is it really just the location of the bedroom?
So given how that's kind of a long, not deep lot, a 2-story home is going to be imposing on that structure. So that is an overall concern. I will live with accommodation somewhat of the windows, okay? I understand the neighborhood's changing. I am basically not stuck in the mud and not open to change. But it does imply that the entire neighborhood's going to be going through a change. If the 2 stories get built there, then I don't see what logic stops 2-story buildings from being built on all of our lots that sit behind it. And that will definitely start changing the entire character of the neighborhood. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Hobbs? Seeing none, thank you for comments tonight, Mr. Hobbs. Mr. Paulson, any other comments on Zoom?
We'll see if my mic works this time. Martha, you'll be next to speak.
Hello, Martha. Can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome to the meeting. You have 3 minutes to speak, and if you can begin by stating your name for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Marta Iglesias Chamani, and my husband and I are the owners of 105 Olive, which is also the backyard is somewhat shares a little bit of the well, actually the garage and a little bit of fence with Melia. And I want to thank also Melia for taking some measures to respect our privacy. One of the concerns that has been addressed is like, I have a house, and the one next to Melia is also a 2-story house, but it's much lower. It's much, to me, like I look in my backyard and I can hardly see that house. Even this 2-story, but the one, Melia's house is much taller than that. Can the 2-story house be lower, like the other one next to it? It's one of my questions. Why does it have to be so much taller? And then, so that's one of the things. And then the window, I really think, I'm very happy that privacy, there's going to be some measures for our privacy, because otherwise, a whole backyard is like completely visible. But I don't know that hedge is going to protect our privacy, because the window, it didn't show what it does to our yard, really. So I'm not sure if it's because it's not visible from that window or not, but I would be surprised, because that house from our yard, looking, just from our backyard door, it's very prominent right now, what you see of that house. And again, the one just in front of me, I cannot see that second floor. It's much lower. So it's not that a second floor couldn't be built. It's like, can it be like 5 feet lower, like the one next to it, is what I'm asking.
Thank you for your comments. And before you leave, do any commissioners have questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. Paulson, any other voices to be heard on Zoom?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Next speaker will be Carolyn.
Hello, Carolyn, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I am Carolyn Bechtel, and I'm right between those last two neighbors. Carolyn Bechtel, I'm at 103 Olive Street. And yes, this is directly in my backyard, over the fence. And I am all for building our personal homes that make us feel wonderful in this fantastic town of Los Gatos. I will miss my sky view and trees and all that will happen, but I also appreciate progress. And the only thing, and I appreciate that you talked about the bathroom windows being elevated and frosted, shaded, whatever, but I'm not quite clear on the bedroom windows, because I think it's looking directly into my bedroom. So I'm not quite clear on that. It does seem like the height is quite tall in the neighborhood, but I also look up our street on Olive, and I think it's kind of the same thing. So I don't know. I'm a little concerned about the visual from the windows looking right into my bedroom window, and I'm not sure what can be done about that, but that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comments. Before you leave, I'm going to ask if any commissioners have any questions for you, and I see Commissioner Janoff.
Thank you. Just a question. Your primary concern sounds like it is the rear bedroom window that you stated appears to look directly into yours. The applicant has proposed a hedge screening that, by documentations provided to us and in the package for public review, would seem to obscure the view from that window to yours. Have you seen that proposed hedge, and would you find that an acceptable means to ensure your privacy?
I did see that earlier, and I was actually very positively affected by that. I really appreciate that that's their intention. So yes, I would say that I had better feelings about that.
All right. Thank you so much for your response.
Commissioner Thomas.
My question has to do with the front yard setback. So one of the requests that the applicant is making tonight is that the front yard setback is only at 7 feet versus 15 feet, so that there is a larger backyard space. And so I was just asking you as a neighbor how you feel about that adjustment, making sure that that house is closer to the front yard, the front lot line than the back. Does that help with your privacy concerns?
Carolyn, you can speak. You are still unmuted.
Okay, so who was that question actually addressed to?
That was to you. So sorry, let me summarize it again. The front, to meet the setbacks required for this neighborhood and for this lot, the house would need to be moved back. So one of the things we're considering tonight is an exception to that rule. So I was just asking if that having the house set more forward towards its front lot line, farther away from your lot line, helped with some of your privacy concerns.
That's an architectural question. Gosh, I don't really know how to answer that.
It's okay.
We faced that on our own street, on Olive Street. And, from the other's perspective, I wouldn't have a problem either way.
But would you be comfortable with the house closer to you?
I wouldn't want to ruin plans. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from commissioners for this witness? Seeing none, thank you again for attending this evening. Mr. Paulson, any other Zoom applicants?
Yes, thank you. The next speaker, it will be Lee Quintana.
Thank you, Ms. Quintana. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please, if you could state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Lee Quintana, and I should mention that I'm currently a member of the Historic Preservation Committee, but I am making this comment as an individual resident. My comment has to do with the garage and the fact that it's going to have a separate application. I am wondering that, since that seems to be a consideration for the neighbor, if the conditions of approval should add a condition that the occupancy permit cannot be finalized until the garage has also been prepared. That's one thing. The other thing, that in response to a commissioner question, if you move the house back as built, obviously it'll probably have more impact on the rear yard neighbors. If you move it forward, it'll have more impact on the street. So in a sense, the question isn't whether it should be moved back or forward, but whether it should be modified to not be as massive and imposing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quintana. Any questions for commissioners from Ms. Quintana? Seeing none. Mr. Paulson, any further?
Thank you, Vice Chair. No further hands.
Thank you. I don't have any yellow cards for anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter, but if there is anybody who wishes to be heard, please, if you would reach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you would have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Moses Gallardo. This is my daughter here.
Okay. Sorry, then you would be part of the applicant's team. So you'll have another chance to speak. Again, you'll have 3 minutes at the end. You can apportion that between you and the architect, any way you want. 3 minutes for applicant. Okay. Okay, any other members of the public wish to be heard? Okay, now applicant, you have up to 3 minutes to speak in rebuttal to any of the points that the members of the public have stated. You can allot that time any way you wish between yourselves or your architect on Zoom. So, but if you do speak in person, if you could please attend the podium. You can begin.
Hi, my name is Moses Gallardo. This is my daughter, Malia. I lived in Los Gatos since 1978, and I've seen the whole area grow. After the '89 earthquake, I've seen all the remodeling people did in downtown, stuff like that. A lot of stuff is going through changes right now. And we're a landscape construction company. That's what me and my brother, we have a company, been around for a long time. So I see a lot of change in the neighborhoods and stuff like that. And I hear some of the neighbors behind what they're asking about the height in the house like that. What I brought in there is I said I'd bring in big English laurel between 8 and 9 feet tall. And if I have to, I'd bring in 14 to 16 foot camphor trees if they want to be screened for the back. When we're going to build a brand new fence, so there would be privacy down there. You're not going to be infecting anybody's really views what you're seeing. You'll still see the mountains in Los Gatos. But the only thing what I'm trying to say down there is this house, it's, you know, my daughter works hard and you barely afford to live in this neighborhood. So we looked at it's fixing the house up, but it's not fixable. It's a tear down. And the house right next to her, it's like a chicken coop. It's sitting on her property, but we would like to make a change and build something nice for Los Gatos. We love Los Gatos. We lived here all our years, and I like to see Los Gatos grow. But I do see a lot of change in all these neighborhoods. So I'm just asking her is take a look at everything and see what you guys can do, and I really appreciate giving us a chance to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Before you sit down, there may be questions for the commissioners from either you, your daughter, or for the architect on Zoom. So, commissioners, let's see what the questions are. You also have an additional 1 minute and 20 seconds, or does anybody have anything further to say?
The architect has his hand raised.
If we can go to Zoom, Mr. Paulson.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Spalding?
Well, I was just raising my hand in case you had a question for me.
Okay, before we go to questions, your team essentially has a little over a minute left to speak if you have any comments before you take questions.
I don't at the moment.
Okay. Then please stay on Zoom. I think will be some questions from commissioners. Commissioners, any questions? Do you have anything further? Okay.
I want to say, well, while I do respect the concerns of the privacy concerns of my neighbors, I also want to acknowledge I have my own privacy concerns too, being it's my bedroom window, my bathroom windows. I won't be, looking into my neighbors' yards all day, right? I want my privacy protected as much as possible, which is why we are making these changes as well. Like I said, I do want to be a good neighbor, better the neighborhood, better the community as best as I can. But I just want to make that clear as to my privacy is a concern as well.
Thank you so much. Okay. Again, I think we've heard from all the members of applicant's team. Commissioners, any questions for any members of the applicant? Yes, Commissioner Thomas.
My question is actually for Mr. Spalding. Well, both of you, but probably for Mr. Spalding. The screening that you plan on doing will be evergreen, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Janoff.
Thank you for the applicant. There was a suggestion that we consider adding a condition of approval to not finalize your project until the garage is repaired as well. Would you be willing to accept that condition as part of the terms of approval?
And if you could move to the microphone to answer the question.
I would say yes. I'm just not sure on the planning steps when that is. I mean, overall, when the house is built, I would like the garage to be built kind of simultaneously in that same time frame. I'm not sure just timing when that needs to be about to happen. I'd probably defer to my architect to address that.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll accept the condition of approval, yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Thomas.
This is actually a question for staff regarding that. Is that a condition of approval that, as per that, I mean, Ms. Whelan, is that a legal condition of approval that we could require?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll say that it's not part of, like, and I have to check in with planning. Was that part of the planning application? And if it's part of the planning application, the town can impose that condition. If the planning application did not reference the garage, the town cannot mandate it, but the applicant can agree to it.
Okay. So basically it can be a strong suggestion and that the applicant would agree to.
Or a condition could be added based on the fact that the applicants have agreed to it.
Mm-hmm. And once the condition is added, it will be enforceable.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Mayer.
Yes, this is for Mr. Spalding. Thank you. I appreciate you guys, your team, responding to the neighbor concerns about privacy by raising the sills in the bathroom. I do have a question about the master bedroom. If you had discussed with the client, perhaps exploring, using one of the walls, primarily the wall with the window that the neighbors are concerned about, as the bed wall, and having clear story windows there, so there's the privacy, and then the main windows looking outside are to the side yard. I'm just wondering if that's something you had taken a look at.
We did look at that option. Malia would prefer to look out to the north, mainly because we don't know what's going to happen on the property to the east. So yeah, we did look at that, but Malia preferred the way it is currently.
Got it. Thank you.
No. Any other questions for commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Thomas.
Mr. Spalding, my last question for you is just with regards to some of the consulting architect's suggestions that one of my other commissioners brought up before, and that is the stucco and the stone to maintain that more contemporary style, which I understand, and that other house that you're citing is in the immediate neighborhood. I was just wondering, I didn't see that other house, the stone and the stucco are the same color, so I was just wondering what the plan was for this stone and stucco combination.
Ours is similar. We do have a color board. It's in your packet. I don't know if it's in color in your packet. It should be. Let's see. It's. I can't see it off the top of. I'm running through the packet trying to find the color. There it is. It's page 39. Ours is a similar color scheme, but the stone is a little more golden, but otherwise very similar.
It's included as Exhibit 4.
Okay, thank you. I was looking at the end, the adjusted ones at the end, and that was black and white. Okay, so that did not change. Those colors are the same, but the porch and everything, that is what ended up changing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? And I actually have one, Mr. Spalding, I think you're the best one to answer this. One of the neighbors indicated that they also had a 2-story structure, but it was shorter in height than this proposed one. So I'm curious, what's your floor plate height on this building?
Well, first of all, that second story is over the garage. So the garage, the 8-foot garage ceiling is measured from the grade, whereas our plate is measured from a raised floor that's 2 feet off the ground. So that's 2 feet right there. And then we have a 10-foot ceiling on the lower floor, and I believe, let me just check. Yeah, 10 feet on the lower floor and 9 on the top. So that's the other, and they probably have an 8-foot second floor. So that's total of, yeah, so we're about 5 feet taller than that building.
And then I guess as a follow-up question then, did you, as part of your planning, consider, especially with respect to the second floor, the 10-foot high ceilings, think about reducing that floor height?
The second floor is 9.
I'm sorry, 9.
Yeah. I've suggested it. Malia would like to keep the ceiling heights the way they are, but it's up to her.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. If I can ask the applicant, you've heard my question to your architect. Would you be willing to consider as a way to reduce the overall height of it, reducing the ceiling height?
I would be open to it. I don't want to make extreme concessions to that, given, I don't want to drop it like maybe like a 6 inches on each level, could be my concession, but, trying to make the most out of the house. As it is a small lot, it is a pretty small house, so just trying to maximize where I can, but if that is necessary.
I appreciate your response. Commissioners, any further questions? No. Okay, then I will close the public portion of this matter and then open it up to my commissioners for discussion of questions, comments, or a motion. Commissioners. Commissioner Janoff.
Thank you. This is a very small lot. It's a very challenging lot. It's sort of long and not very deep, which is also unusual and challenging. The house itself is pretty modest in size, which is consistent with the size of the lot. I think that the plans are reasonable for the area. I can find, consistent with the residential design guideline, that in terms of the 225 rule or guideline, that the contemporary house that you see on the corner of Monterey is in that 225 immediate neighborhood, and therefore there is context for this house being a contemporary house as well. So I think that we can make that finding, and as a result of the choice of the contemporary design, the 2 of the 6 requests from the consulting architect wouldn't apply because this is a contemporary style, and so the metal roof as well as the window trim would be consistent with the contemporary style. So I can see that to the extent that the architectural style is contemporary, the architect has managed to make the adjustments that the consulting architect has recommended that would apply. So I find that this is a reasonable project for this site. Regarding the 7-foot setback, it's an improvement over the setback we currently have. And as Commissioner Thomas was alluding to in her questions about resiting the house itself back on the lot in order to be able to meet the 15-foot setback, that would probably be an undue, it would be a loss of property, loss of use of the property in the rear yard, so that doesn't seem reasonable, and the mass moving backward would certainly impinge on your neighbor's privacy. So that doesn't seem, so the 7-foot setback seems reasonable, particularly when you're adding a porch, which is something that's very consistent within the town and a good recommendation from staff. So I can justify the 7-foot setback in that regard. I also appreciate that the applicant has agreed to the privacy hedge, and you've heard the neighbor tonight agree that that will go a long way toward preserving the privacy concerns. And then lastly, I'm glad that the applicant brought up her own concerns for privacy. It is always a two-way street, and the privacy that each party desires to cherish is one that we hope to achieve. So I'm glad that you are. I'm glad that you're also concerned with your privacy and that the measures that you're taking will afford that as well as your neighbors. So I'm in favor of this application.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments? Commissioner Hanson.
I pretty much agree with everything that Commissioner Janoff said. I thought long and hard about it. I always look to the consulting architect's comments, but to be able to provide any reasonable amount of space with this small of a lot, it's going to be very difficult to move the second story back and all of that, and then you might create unintended consequences. So I do think that that this size of it is appropriate for this remodeling. We're improving the setback to a certain extent. I would, pursuant to our vice chair's suggestion, want to consider at least removing some of the things that put it over the top, maybe by very slightly lowering the plate height, maybe of the second floor by even 6 inches. That would hopefully bring the house down under the 3 inches and not be the tallest in the neighborhood. I think whenever we're pushing things to the very edge, it's problematic. And I do think the things that you've suggested for privacy will make a lot of sense, and I agree that it is a two-way street. So generally, I'm in favor of the application, but I would maybe like to see a very slight height reduction, and then I also would be in favor of the condition of approval for the garage, since we had enough neighbors complaining about it.
Thank you for those comments. Commissioners? Commissioner Janoff.
Yeah, the plate height issue is one that we see on every application these days when it's a residential application. It's always a 10-foot first floor and proposed 9-foot second floor. Normally, I would not be in favor of those plate heights, particularly when we're looking at designs where the houses are quite large. But when you have a modest-sized house like this, the plate heights make a huge difference when your overall room size is small. I know this from personal experience, since my kids live in a 1,000-square-foot house, and it doesn't seem so because it's got 10-foot height ceilings in the living areas and 9-foot in the bedrooms. It makes a big difference. And when I look at the plans for this, especially on the upper floor, you have a very modest couple of rooms, and so the applicant graciously would accept a lower plate height. I wouldn't recommend lowering it any more than 6 inches, because those inches really do make a big difference on a small scale.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas.
I would like to echo Commissioner Janoff's comments. I would not be in favor of reducing the plate height, again, because I do think that this has become more of the standard, what is being requested, and this is, I think that it is a very modest and well-designed house that will fit into the neighborhood, and taking into account the privacy issues of the neighbors, but also speaking that, as someone who has a neighbor that has rooms that look in, like trees and screening and window coverings, and these are all things that, they don't want me looking out at them in their bedroom window either. So I appreciate that the applicant pointed that out, and I don't think that 6 inches is going to make a huge difference with regards to privacy, or a huge difference with regards to the bulk and mass from the street. So I would not be in favor of changing that unless my fellow commissioners feel very passionate about it. And so overall, I do agree that it does comply with our residential design guidelines, and I think that it would really improve the neighborhood. And so I'm happy to support the application as is, with the making sure that those screen trees are included.
Thank you for those comments. Any further comments, commissioners? Commissioner Mayer.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with what the other commissioners have said so far. I somewhat disagree with the consulting architect's comments. Even though the material palette for the exterior is contemporary, I think it's tasteful, it's tastefully done. But you have sort of more traditional window proportions and the roof gable forms that kind of tie it back to the historic nature of the neighborhood. And we also have to remember, too, that this particular block is sort of a transition zone between the commercial area of North Santa Cruz Avenue and the more residential area going up Thurston Street. So I think this design is appropriate for that zone. I also really like how even, I don't take, asking for a setback exceptions lightly, but in this case, this is a very special circumstance. It's a non-conforming lot that's smaller than a typical lot in this zoning district. And the way that the house meets the street is really nice. The addition of the front porch and I especially love the fact that you are planning to keep the garage and rehabilitate it up into a new, a kind of refresh it so it's not doesn't look like it's falling apart. I think one of the disappointments I see with a lot of new construction houses, not just in Los Gatos but in other Bay Area cities, is having like a gargantuan garage like right on the street side. I really miss the days of garages in the rear, so I'm happy that that's the proposal here. So I'm probably inclined to support this. The only comment I would make is this is more for the architect. I think in the future for these kind of applications, I'd like to see more 3D visualization. I'd like to see sort of maybe like a 3D view of the street, of like a rendering of the proposal in the context of the neighborhood. I mean, I know we have the elevations and the diagrams and there were the story poles, but I would like to see more 3D visualization in the future.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments, commissioners? Commissioner Hanson.
I just wanted to follow up based on Commissioner Janoff's response to my comments. I don't feel incredibly strongly about reducing the height. I always prefer to have less exceptions than more, but I do think that this is a small enough house. We're looking at above ground 1,600 square feet. It's not a very big house at all, and I can imagine that the extra few inches would make a big difference in terms of comfort of living. So I could let go of that. I still feel that we have to be committed to make sure that the garage is fine. I also agree with Commissioner Mayer's comments about having the garage in the back. That's in our residential design guidelines not to have a big, massive garage in front, but we see it a lot. So,
thank you for those comments. Any further comments? I will just make one to note that the only, I think, ask in this application really was the setback. This house, and I made comments about floor plates earlier, and I appreciate Commissioner Janoff's comments, but the house is within our town limits and guidelines for height as well as FAR, and I think that helps this application. So I would be supportive of it in its current configuration with the added provisos regarding the garage being simultaneously constructed. Commissioner Burnett.
Yes, thank you. So I will not be able to support this project. I think it is a nice design. I tend to agree with our town architect on his 6 recommendations, only of which 2 were followed. This is a neighborhood that is still pretty much intact, and I think there's a lot of value in keeping a traditional architectural designed neighborhood. And I feel some changes could have been made, recommendations from our architect that I could have gone along with the project. But because I don't feel it's following our design guidelines, and I'd like to look further, because it's not in my book about modern design in the neighborhood. So that would be my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Commissioners? Commissioner Janoff first.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Thank you. Before the motion, Commissioner Thomas, I think, had her hand raised.
Oh, I just wanted to add that I think that we should definitely add the garage. Okay, garage situation.
Thank you.
Perfect.
If we're ready then, Commissioner Janoff, I'd like to receive your motion, please.
All right, thank you. I move to approve demolition of an existing single-family residence and construction of a new single-family residence with reduced setbacks on property zone R1D, APN 410-15039. This is architecture and site application S23009, and the address is 212 Thurston Street. This project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. Section 15303A, new construction or conversion of small structures, property owner applicant Malia Gallardo, project planner Maria Javarin. I can make the required findings for CEQA. I can make the required finding for the demolition of existing structures. I can make the required compliance with zoning regulations. I can make the required finding for nonconforming lots. And I can make the required findings that this project is in compliance with the residential design guidelines. And this is in consideration of architecture and site application. And these considerations, these findings are in Exhibit 2 And we're also including the conditions of approval in Exhibit 3 with the addition that we are asking the applicant to repair the garage in sequence with the build of the house so that the final approval will include the repaired garage as well.
Thank you for that motion. Commissioners, do I have a second? Commissioner Hanson.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Then with showing of hands, all those
Sorry,
Oh.
through the vice chair, just
Yep.
a clarification that whether the motion was also intended to include the modifications for privacy shown in Exhibit 11 for the hedge and the modifications to windows. There was discussion of that by the Planning Commission.
Yes, the motion would include the privacy screening as well as the window change in Exhibit 11. Thank you.
And I concur with the second.
Thank you. With the so modified motion, if I can show by a raise of hands, all those in favor of the motion? Thank you. And all opposed? The motion carries 5-1. Thank you so much. I will now move to the other business portion of the calendar. Oh, I'm sorry. Appeal rights.
Thank you. The decision of the commission can be appealed to town council by any interested person as defined by Town Code Section 2910.020 within 10 days on forms available online with fees paid. Final deadline is 4 p.m. on the 10th day, since that will be a Monday.
Thank you so much. And good luck with your project. Mhm. Okay, we now move to the other business portion of the calendar. Tonight we have the election of the chair and of the vice chair for the 2024 year. With that introduction, I'll leave it open to my commissioners to make any comments they wish. Commissioner Hanson.
I'd like to nominate our Vice Chair Raspy to be Chair of the Planning Commission.
I'm grateful and thank you. Commissioner Burnett.
I would love to second that.
Appreciate it. We have a motion on the table in a second. By show of hands, those in favor? Those opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. And thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Which takes us to our second motion, the nomination and election of our vice chair. And it's my great pleasure to nominate Commissioner Thomas to be vice chair for our 2024 session. Do I have a second on that motion? Commissioner Janoff.
I'll second the motion, or notion. I'm not sure if it's a motion.
I think it's is it
a nomination?
We'll call it either one. By show of hands, can I see commissioners vote on our vice chair for 2024 as Commissioner Thomas? Thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you all so much. Let's now move to the report from the Community Development Director.
Thank you, and congratulations to our new chair and vice chair. Just a few quick updates based on what the Town Council has done since we last met. On December 19th, the Town Council met and they considered an appeal of the proposed lot line adjustment at 17200 Los Robles Way, and the appeal was denied, upholding the Planning Commission's decision. In addition, they had a discussion of the draft housing element and consideration of the December 1st letter that was received from the state. The direction that was given was to have Town Council be more of a participant in the process moving forward. And so there will be additional discussion of the housing element at their meeting next Tuesday, the 16th. We do expect to have revisions prepared by town staff and the consultant for consideration in response to the December 1st letter as part of the staff report, which is expected by the end of the day, published by the end of the day tomorrow. In addition to that, we have scheduled a meeting for the Housing Element Advisory Board that same week, where they will consider and discuss these changes as well as any input from Town Council. So the HEB meeting will be on the 18th. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This point, we report on our subcommittees. The planning commissioners, in addition to serving as planning commissioners, also serve on subcommittees. I'm imagining that during the holidays, we did not have any subcommittee meetings, so I can't imagine we have any reports to make today. So with that being said, I wish to again welcome everybody back for 2024. Hopefully you have a very successful year. Thank you to staff for all your work. And I look forward to working with all of you in the new year. And with that, I'll adjourn this meeting.